Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the workshop of the Board of County Commissioners for September 16th. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first thing we have on our agenda today is a letter of support for the Heuer Labs. Mitchell Heuer, am I saying that correct? Come on down, sir, or both of you, if you're together. Turn on your mic, pull it as close to you as you possibly can get it so that the people on TV can hear you, and take off from there.
Okay, check. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Hi.
More afternoon. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, thanks.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me. So what I'm looking for is a letter of support from the county. I'm a local resident, and I am on a mission to really help affordable housing worldwide. And what we're working on is robotics and different materials supported by it'll be a national network of little factories run by small dealers, so kind of like mom and pop shops for factory homes. They'll support the big robots, and we're talking some big robots. They'll be able to print 30 stories tall apartments eventually. And so that's where we're headed, to build robotic homes, and we're just trying to round up some grant money. So this particular letter of support would be for the USDA, and it's through the Small Business Administration. So I know we need affordable housing here, and we need it across America and across the world. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I read it. I don't have a problem.
Okay, so I do have a question for you, because I always get asked this when I ask the question about affordable housing, because we follow Region 9 here, and we have a number that we look at for what's affordable in this county. So when you say affordable housing in this county, put an actual number to that for me.
Well, we're trying to get below the 30% of income, but I know I've researched the problem here in the county, and it's across the board from super low income to even above middle class. And so I don't know what the actual number is for Cortez today. I just don't have it with me.
Okay.
Yeah, we get saddled with the Denver Boulder CPI over there. And,
Right. And we're going to be below that here.
Oh, yes.
Right. And let's just look at the writing on the wall that 2x4s and 2x6s and skilled labor costs are through the roof. And so whatever we come up with today needs to be improved upon. If we're talking about what I'm going to be doing we're going to be looking to improve upon it year after year to bring that cost lower and lower to help in communities right here. It's going to be harder to make it more affordable here than it would be in Denver with your the wages are higher in other areas. So I don't have that number here today, and I can't tell you, yes, we're going to make that. I can't tell you that. We're too early. But we know that Ford made the automobile affordable for a $5 an hour worker with perfection of the factory. That's the same kind of technology that needs to be applied with house building. We got to have factories on the land, in my opinion, factories on the land doing robotic work without skilled labor to even get close to making it affordable in all areas.
Okay. Commissioner, do you have any questions at all? I mean, it's just something that there's not a meeting that we, or specifically that I know. I sit on the Housing Authority Board, and I think Commissioner Lindsay also sits on another Housing Authority Board, and we hear it all the time. But, it was explained to me by a banker one day, the very best that I've ever understood. So what's affordable? So every person, it's different to every person, right?
It's relative,
So
you bet.
30 to 34% is all the borrowing power that you have for basically a house payment. So when you start putting that math together, it becomes a very, very low number for affordable housing. And I'm just always curious when we get these letters of support and they have that language in there of, you know, affordable housing, what does that actually mean?
Right.
Because it's something to everybody else. Everybody is different. I was just curious what your numbers were that you had in your mind of a target that you were trying to hit.
Well, the best answer I have is that we're just trying to come in 20-30% lower than current costs for a square
the
foot.
area median income then, are you trying to hit the area median income here in Montezuma County or
No,
statewide or?
not yet. We're just trying to be 30% lower than what it would cost. If I went down to Slavens and bought a bunch of material, I want to be 30% lower than that. But I don't have a dollar number for you.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Commissioner? Okay.
I mean,
All right.
I don't have anything. There's,
Got to try something.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. We don't make decisions today, just so that you're aware of that.
Okay.
Today's a workshop. We only ask questions. It's for presentations.
Okay.
So tomorrow we make decisions.
Okay,
In
that sounds
our
good.
actual business meeting, this is a workshop.
Okay. Well, thanks for the time, gentlemen.
All right.
And I'll let you
you.
know tomorrow if
Oh.
they approve or.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Okay. Miss Martin, come on down. You know the drill. Pull it as close as you can.
I know the drill. So I'm here today because the JBBS grant had additional funds that they could give to the counties, and they reached out to us and said they have $15,000 they could add to the grant. I think the grant was for $220,000, and so that would make it $235,000, right around there. Last year, they gave us an additional $30,000 towards the end that they had an additional funds that we could use. They may actually do that again towards the end of the grant if there are excess funds. I'm not sure if this will just be a one-time thing or if they'll have additional monies available.
Robert, do you have anything else on this either? I mean, I just, a question on, so it's specifically just for daycare?
No, this is the JBBS grant.
Okay.
This is the jail-based behavioral
gotcha.
services grant.
I'm one above,
Yes.
or I'm one below.
Okay.
One below.
Yeah,
Okay.
the jail-based behavioral services grant, earlier this year, you approved that grant, and this is just a revision of that because there's some additional
Is that
funding in the
additional
budget from
funding?
the state.
Okay.
Of the 15.
Hmm?
Of the 15.
Yes,
Additional,
additional
okay.
15,000.
All right.
okay.
Perfect. Questions, gentlemen?
No.
Okay.
That's too
Now we'll
easy.
go to the next one, which is
I looked
where I
at
have the
the,
question.
and just for the record, guys, I looked at the language in that amendment, and there's no issues from a legal standpoint. It's pretty straightforward. They're just giving us more money. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The next grant is for law enforcement, recruitment, workforce retention, and tuition. And part of it did allow for providing or assisting in the provision of childcare for peace officers. So I checked with our employees, and we have 7 employees that could benefit from this with their childcare. I spoke with Phaedra and Robert in a meeting to see if it was a feasible thing to do before I haven't even written the grant yet, before I presented it. And they said they didn't see a problem with it, that it could be done if the people that were participating made sure that they got their invoices in at a certain day of the month so that they could be reimbursed in their paycheck for it. And they do realize that there may be some tax burdens on them, but they're willing to
Accept the tax
accept the
burden.
tax burdens. Yes, they know after the $5,000 there could be additional tax burdens, but they are. So
Okay.
the grant was for almost $68,000, but I don't know who we're going to be hiring in this next year, and it's for a year. So I would like to write the grant for $90,000 to cover any additional people coming in that may have children that may need daycare.
So this is a reimbursement, obviously, if the grant's accepted or
Yes.
approved,
Mhm.
then whoever's getting
Yeah,
the
it would be a
services-
reimbursable grant. So the employees would submit their costs to the county, and then we would submit the reimbursement to the grant.
Yes,
Yeah.
quarterly. We'd
Quarterly.
get reimbursed quarterly like we do the other reimbursable grants.
Okay.
The one thing I did want to clarify is that when we discussed it, we would issue checks to the employees, separate checks, not run it through payroll, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, because it's a reimbursable, it's a reimbursement period.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then as you mentioned, any of the tax consequences or anything, that would fall onto the employee and their tax professionals to make sure that they account for that appropriately.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, how long is the grant for?
A year.
A year?
Yes.
Okay.
So
But
is
this
that a
grant has come-
October-
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 4/1. Got it.
Yes, it'll start in April of next year and run through March of 2026.
Okay.
And this grant, last year, I wrote the grant for additional health care. So it's the same grant, so it's been coming up every year. I don't know if it's something that we could possibly continue after that or not. I'm not sure how long the funding will
And it's-
continue.
Any qualifications on providers? Do you, I mean,
They can have whomever they want do the
Okay.
childcare as long as we get the invoices for what it costs them for the month.
okay.
And then we'll reimburse.
So again, I just want to make it perfectly clear that like any other grant,
Mhm.
and you've heard this before, obviously, we don't have any issues or problems with this, but if it is not funded in the future, there's no way that we can then pick it up and fund it. So please make sure that that expectation is not out there.
Yes.
We're just trying to make sure that we're always perfectly clear that I think this is great.
Mhm.
And if it can help 7 families or 8 or, great. But if it is not funded, then it's a grant that goes away.
They do know that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just always want to make sure that we're perfectly clear.
Mhm.
All right. Anything else,
That's all.
gentlemen?
I don't have any problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
thank you so much.
Wanda. I do not see Ray O'Neill in here. So, Mr. Spratlen, Dobry, and Sattler, come on down. What did you find out, gentlemen?
After reviewing the bids, the apparent low bidder is who we would recommend. His scope of work matches what we're looking for, and he's supplying the generators also, his company. So then startup would be included and all that.
So that was 110,
110,000.
110,000, whatever, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question that we asked specifically was he going to be able to hold that cost?
And the answer is yes.
Okay.
He emailed and said that he would hold the cost. He's providing the generators and would hold the cost as long as there wasn't a stop work order, something caused by the county. And Dustin can detail that a little more. But basically, as long as there's not a stop work, the county stops the project in some way, but he can guarantee the cost to when the generators come and then he installs them with that bid.
It says, a stop work, natural or man-made disaster in a period that extends beyond 6 months is the only time he would change something.
Which we're anticipating 5 months, right?
Yeah, and he
For
said,
the conversation last
this
week.
has steadily been decreasing over the past year on the expected ship dates, so. And I think it was a little better than what we were thinking. It was in the middle of January instead of the middle of February already. Something like that.
Okay. Do we have any preparation that we have to do prior to him getting here? Have we made those accommodations, or?
I need to speak with him. I think he wants to run part of his conduit and then us put the pad around the conduit that's stubbed up so that that's all on the inside of that cabinet. And then, so we'll have to do that concrete once he has his utilities stubbed up.
Okay. All right. Question?
No.
So we have an apparent, a low bidder, and we have a recommendation.
Yeah, of
Okay.
Expedia Power.
All right, well, we can approve that tomorrow.
Good. All right, so I'm always the bearer of good news. As we know, the grant, we put in for this grant in '21, sort of got it approved in '22. Ended up getting that generator from the church, which they wouldn't pay for because it was used, wasn't part of the grant, so we just said we were going to make, we would pay less in the match for that, so we ended up putting the generator in the transfer switch. Then we redid the plan with 4 generators instead of 5, resubmitted it, and that took 3-4 months, and then they said they turned the tap off. FEMA wasn't able to fund anything for a while. I believe that went on for like 6 months, 8 months. So then they said, all right, they always put the money in towards the hazard mitigation plan. So they did. We have the plan. We submitted our budget, and it looked good at the time. For our generators, we had submitted $89,646. We ended up paying $97,956, so about $8,000 more. And the install, we were planning on 51, let me get my figures right, with the permits, the gas, and the install, because the transfer switches came with the generators, was around 56,000. With this bid, it's at 110. So the difference, of course, was around 54,000 plus. We were looking at, the board had approved the $17,048 for match. Looking at our match, we're going to fulfill all of our match, and we have the administrative fee as well that we have in there. So we're actually getting back, we wouldn't have any match at all as far as in-kind. The in-kind was, with the admin fee, kind of wipe each other out. Let me see if I can. So our cost now, we need an additional $37,416 with any unforeseen issues. We don't want to have to come back to the board in January, February, March, April. We're asking the board to give us $40,000 more in match, and that would allow us to basically, we pay for 1 generator, we get the other 3 pretty much for free. So.
And what we would ask is to just include that in the 2025 budget, because the install is not going to be happening until 2025, so those expenses wouldn't happen until 2025, rather than a supplemental or anything like that in 2024.
In our time frame, this thing will be completed December 26. One of the things we thought of trying to do again is resubmit the plan, resubmit the budget, wait for FEMA to approve it, and that could be 8 to 10 months. And that's putting us way back. So that's why we're here. That's why we kind of got the bids, try to lock something in and see what we really have, move
How
forward.
did we underestimate so far? 100%, over 100%. How did we do that?
Go ahead.
I believe it was because of the local electrician that we worked with to get pricing instead of going outsource and figuring out electrical install pricing.
You know what gives me some pause from a legal perspective is if we commit to accepting this bid and we don't have money budgeted for it at this point in time, I mean, aren't we kind of putting the cart before the horse? I mean, ultimately, final budgets haven't been approved. We haven't had that public hearing, and here we are committing ourselves pretty early in the game to something that at this point we don't even know if there's going to be money for. That's always nerve-wracking to enter into a contract that you don't know whether or not you can pay it.
I guess that's where I was headed too when I mean, I know your ask is for 40 grand.
Correct.
So, obviously, we're not going to approve anything here today. It's a conversation, but obviously we'll have to sit down as a budget committee to figure out, I mean, where do we dig this up at?
Yep.
Or,
And
or
that's-
do we dig it up? Or do we, punt?
Yeah, and we were looking at punting, and the generators are already ordered, so we would have to deal with those, and then we would have to pay for them. The grant says you will, we even asked them, can we get the generators in on concrete, and then hook them up as we go? And they said, yeah, as long as it's all done by December 26 of 26. And if not, they don't reimburse. So we would be left with whatever, the extra 75%. So that's why, yeah, we got to look at this.
So we have
So I would
2 years to
be
complete this, right?
very careful about committing to the RFP at this point because there's no money. I mean, we can't
Oh, I
we
agree.
can't hypothetically predict what we might do next year. I mean, we're legally obligated to have that public hearing, to adopt that budget. And so if we're locking ourselves in right now in September and something changes from a budget perspective, then all of a sudden we have a contract that we're not going to be able to pay for, and that's going to be a problem.
But what you're saying, if I heard this correctly, that we know the generators are already ordered.
Ordered and will be en route, yeah.
And 5 months away, they should be here, correct? So we've already committed to that. And the other commitment to that, with that grant, is then they do have to be energized by end of the year 26,
Correct.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And I guess that was my question. We have 2 years to complete the
So
project.
we have 25 and 26. So you could get 1 or 2, yeah. So, okay, well, I think that's a conversation that we have to sit down with the budget committee, all of us are in here, to figure out how do we cut this thing? But my question comes back still to, we can't be 100% off on our budgeting, and we can't be 100% off on our cost estimating. We're not even close. We're over 100% off.
Also was 3 years ago when we started
So-
all this, but
No, and I
do
get that.
understand that.
Yeah, it was a long time. Yeah, that's the issue. All the budget was submitted, everything was approved. And that was a while back, so. And we added some additional costs to it at that time, thinking it would, probably go up a little, waiting on them to approve. But that in turn, turning the faucet off and then turning it back on caused some issues. And all this install stuff went up.
So let me ask you this question. Is there one way at this point in time, or is there any way at this point in time to let one of those fall off? Are they all in production at this point in time?
I don't know.
We can find out.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out a way, how do we stay within budget and not come up with this other $40,000? And if that means that we have to diminish or go back and reduce by 1, then that might be I mean.
Could be, we'd have to submit that change in the grant, though, to have them approve it.
It's just a question, I'm just,
Yeah.
And we can reach out to our FEMA contact and see what our options would be there.
Because, I mean, here's what we're faced with, is we're 3 years down the road now. Our costs obviously are,
They're not gonna get any cheaper.
No,
No.
no, that's what I'm looking at too.
I'd just soon, if we can find the money somewhere, get it done and get it done now.
well, I would too, but if we can't find it, I mean, every time we turn a corner, we're looking for another 40 grand.
Yeah,
Well,
I
pretty
understand
quick,
that too. Or 40 grand.
40 grand, 40 grand, 40 grand equals a
Right.
lot of money.
Well, if we can,
Ask the question. We're not making a decision today.
We will, absolutely. And that would, to go back to your question about the cost estimating, I think in the future with projects even that look relatively simple, like generators and connections, I think we do need to use professional engineering services to get us cost estimates as opposed to like a estimate from a local contractor, just to make sure, because we need, for a federal grant like this, we need to make sure that we're asking for the right amount of money up front and not trying to change it on the back end, because they can approve the money up front, changing
Yeah.
it later is a lot more difficult.
and that was the conversation we had today.
Yeah.
Was, and you know, it was before our procurement policy. So we were just, reaching out, trying to locate, but you can do that with a contractor, but they're not able to bid. And that, part of that procedure, it's also part of the guidelines of the grants as well, so. Next time the engineer, it would cost us up front a little bit, but at least we know up front where this is headed, over a year, 2 years. Give us a better estimate on
Well,
this stuff.
it's hard to estimate anything when you're talking 12 to 24 months, because nobody knew what these inflationary costs were gonna do to us.
Or if they go up or down. I was surprised the generators didn't go over what they went over, or more, I should say.
Well, I don't think we've seen anything go down.
When, and
Not a
our
bit.
Except our revenues.
hope in rebidding this the third time was to at least get a clear sense of what the cost would be, and this bid that we had recommended is the lowest bid by a significant amount, and basically that while the hopes had been maybe we get a bid that gets us in closer to our budget, it appears that's not the case now. So I think we just need to look at what our options are going forward.
Okay.
And I think in our quote with the guy, 90 days, and he already said in his email he'd hold on to it. So I don't know if Ian allows us to say yes to that bid, but it's locked in at 90 days. So we could get something in January. I'm thinking out loud here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, that's really good. I mean, that's locked in, and that alleviates my concern. I mean, because by the time that bid expires, then we'll have a sense of where we're at with the budget. So that's good news.
Right, because that's December that has to be approved, so we would actually know something. So we'll sit down as the budget committee. I think Commissioner Lindsay is correct. Obviously, everything we can get done now is better, because it's just gonna be higher next year. But if we don't have the 40,000 to commit to right now, then we've gotta obviously look at the other options, so. Okay. Let's don't be 100% off.
no.
Thank you.
Okay. What do you have for good, you said you had good news?
And there's no disasters today, just so
Oh,
you know.
that's the good news?
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
that's the
What
good
about,
news.
what about drought out there today?
We're doing okay.
Yeah?
Yep. Had that fire on L, but we're doing good.
That wasn't because of a drought.
No, it wasn't. We're doing good.
This
And
fire
come
was-
on snow and come
What's-
on moisture, and
what's
I
the
washed
fire-
my truck twice and it's been raining, so I'll
What's
just
the
go
fire
wash it
danger?
again.
What's fire danger today?
Low and moderate.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing good. All in the blue. Looks good.
Very good.
We're happy.
Okay.
That's good news.
Okay, well, I knew you had good news. You said you had it, so I was just
Yep.
making sure I got it out there.
No, good for now. Maybe, I don't know. We got another grant coming up, but we've already did the notice of intent. You guys are good. We just have to add a dab more because of the inflation and cost, but other than that, good news all around
Okay,
at my end.
very good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Not too many smoke and mirrors.
Okay, we're gonna talk about a IGA contract amendment with Miss Hargraves. Come on down, Kelly.
Howdy.
Hello.
All right, so this one that we're looking at, this is an amended contract requested from HICPUF. This specifically amends the state fiscal year incentive of $63,118. They needed an amendment. The original one, I think, had $61,000. This contract for all years is based on performance incentives offered by HICPUF that have to do with our economic security and eligibility side. So when we meet their timeframes, sometimes we get those incentives that are up there.
Do you have any issues with this one, Ian, as far as the contract?
No, I mean, these state contracts are always the same. There's a lot of outs for the state, and you know, if we were, I mean, if this was a contract for some kind of services, then you know, I would be concerned with all the outs for the state, but ultimately the state's giving us money, and so you know, we have to live with some of the provisions that the state includes in the contract that allow them to get out in the case of, you know, an emergency or any other sort of fiscal shortcoming. Ultimately, that there's no issue here.
Okay, commissioners, any questions?
No.
All right, well, that was
There's one more.
painless. All right, next one.
This is our Promoting Safe and Stable Families, PSSF contract. This is year 4 of a 4-year grant cycle. So we have the contract here, a $200,000 budget. This is a regional contract, so this money is shared between Montezuma, Archuleta, and La Plata County. Montezuma County Department of Social Services is the overseer of the contract, and we subcontract it out to different sites. This is all about really reducing child abuse and neglect. It's for prevention activities. It's for intervention activities. If we have homes where there's an adoption and maybe they need some additional support because a child has behaviors. And it's also support to get families reunited when they are removed from the home. Each county, as you can see in the pages within this, have their own scope of work, so they use different strategies to promote stability within their communities. And so the new contract cycle is October 1st. And then we will look to you all to reapply, probably start that process in April of next year to reapply for another 4-year cycle.
Any issues with this one, Ian? I'm sure it's probably okay, but just a question.
Yeah, it's not on the agenda, but I did get a copy from Kelly, and I don't have any issues with it.
Okay. Gentlemen, question?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kelly.
Easy peasy, thank you.
Thank you.
Letters of interest for the open fair board positions. I did see another resignation, so we have 4 letters, right, Travis? Is that?
We have 4, and I got another one this afternoon. We'll have to put it on the next agenda. Next
Okay.
workshop, so. And I'm not even sure how many open. I think they have 4 openings, maybe 5 now. I'll have to reach out to Tammy and ask.
Yeah.
There's 4, I think.
4 currently?
Because it's a 7-person board and 1 alternate, right?
Yes.
And we still, don't we always appoint the 1 alternate too?
I think so, yes.
Yes, sir.
So we've got 5 that vacated?
That's my understanding. We had 4
Okay.
openings and got another resignation yesterday.
Yeah, I did see that. All right, well, pull them up and let's go through them. Of the 4 that we have, we don't have to make, of course, I did, in their email, they asked if we could get these approved relatively quickly so that they could have them on board for their next meeting.
Yeah, I think if we do it by tomorrow, we're gonna be fine.
Okay, so you got another day?
Did we post somewhere something to get these letters, or?
It's my understanding the Fair Board posted this stuff to get letters.
You know, I think it's always good practice in situations like this where we're dealing with a county appointed board to make sure that we get some posting and some time period by which applicants can apply. I mean, I don't think it has to be a lengthy time frame, but I definitely would confirm that there was a posting and perhaps even recommend that the county post something on its website or take some steps similar to how we post other positions. It's just good public policy to get this stuff out there to the public. And again, maybe that happened. I don't know.
So I don't, well, I can say that I don't think that we did any postings, looking around this room. So before we even review these, Ian, are you saying let's just put that on hold and actually?
That would be
put it
my
out for
advice. I mean,
us?
I don't think, I don't see a ton of legal liability if you just move forward, but I do think just as a matter of good course and a matter of solid public policy, just get this out so you don't run into any sort of accusations that this was done without full public transparency and that everybody didn't have an equal opportunity to submit and apply.
I'm looking on our website, I'm not saying that it's.
Okay. Well, then I think we'll go beyond these today so that they're not even viewed in public. And we'll go ahead and get that advertised, Travis, and so that it gets out to all of the public to make sure, like you said, everybody has the opportunity to apply. So, you gentlemen have any other comments on that?
No.
Let's go past it today, and then we'll get it out, and then we'll hopefully pick it up in the next couple weeks. And then hopefully we have all kinds of applicants, but we'll go from there. Okay. All right, I still do not see Ray O'Neill here. Was he coming?
That was my
I
understanding.
got an email from Ray late last week, and it did indicate that he was going to be at the meeting today. But again, that was just an email I received on Friday. We were emailing back and forth about an MOU that we're working on, and so I did get that message.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go on. He's not in here. If he does show up, we'll jump back up in the agenda up to him. So now we have a discussion as it's related to the Sheriff's Office financials contracts, RFPs, for the inmate medical care. So Travis, I'll let you take this one away.
So we was gonna discuss some of the information that's been coming out about, the budget with the sheriff's office and some of the articles. And we invited the sheriff and he wanted a Zoom link, but I'm not seeing him on our Zoom. So I'm not sure if you gentlemen want to proceed.
Well, I think we can definitely look at the RFP for the inmate medical care. That contract is up at the end of 2024, and just like everything else, I think that we typically we should go out to bid it out, whether it's the sheriff does it or whether we do it, just to make sure that we are getting the best cost that we possibly can for the county, because that does go into the sheriff's budget, and right now that seems like it's increasing significantly. So, thoughts?
So as to this issue, commissioners, this is an interesting one from a legal perspective, because ultimately the sheriff statutorily is in charge of running the jail. part of that duty includes obviously a responsibility to provide health care for inmates. The sheriff is not bound by the county's procurement guidance. I spoke with Travis last week about this issue, and ultimately the county has the purse strings, but the sheriff can pick who he wants to provide health care services at the jail. And so what this board and what the county's responsibility is to provide the sheriff with enough money to provide sufficient health care services. Now, it doesn't have to be the amount of money that Southern Health Partners is charging. I mean, it can be an amount of money that would cover the cost of some other company. But what we need to do is we just need to be sure that the sheriff has enough to fulfill his statutory obligation. Now, if we put it out for RFP, we could certainly get proposals or pricing, but ultimately the sheriff's going to be the one that's going to choose who he uses. We choose how much money we put in that budgetary line item. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, but I guess where we're saying for a budgetary standpoint, are we getting the best cost to serve
Well,
that we can? I realize the sheriff can pick whoever he wants, but we're tasked with putting a number in that line item, correct? And that's it. Then the sheriff can pick and choose whoever he wants.
And I did reach out trying to get a base cost after I talked to Ian, and there's just no way to get a base cost after talking to some of the vendors, because they have to have an RFP, because they don't know what the scope of work is and services, because they're all over the board. What is it that they want? So to get a base cost, there's just no way I can do that.
Well, it's going to be difficult for the county to develop an RFP because ultimately the sheriff is the one that's charged with running the jail. And so if you're going to put out an RFP, my recommendation would be that you bring in some expert to help you develop it, and that expert can provide a very clear picture of what needs to be in that RFP. Because if we put something out that's not sufficient and we get bids and then we base the budgetary numbers off those bids and it turns out to not be sufficient, then that's where we're going to have trouble with from a legal standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, Ian. I mean, we changed this, 3 years ago? Were you, when we changed to Southern Health Partners? We used to do it internally in-house on our own. And I want to say we did this
2 years ago, I believe.
2, 3?
Yeah.
2 or 3 years, yeah. We had a nurse in-house.
Yep.
So what you're saying is the physical responsibility for getting the taxpayer the best for their money lies with the sheriff rather than us?
Well, no, I'm just saying that you need to be sure that whatever you put out is going to be something that's going to elicit a proposal that's sure to meet all of the statutory requirements at the jail. And that's my concern. I mean, the sheriff knows that jail. He runs that jail. He's there every day. He knows what's needed. You need to find, I mean, if the sheriff is not going to assist with this, then you need to find somebody who can put together a comprehensive proposal so you are sure, so this board's sure that they're getting a proposal that's going to meet the needs of the jail. Because that's where you go awry. If you budget a certain amount of money and that money is not sufficient to cover the costs associated with running that jail, then we have legal problems.
Okay. Totally understand it. So there is the potential that we could go back to exactly what we were doing prior with providing our own services, correct?
Well, assuming that those services are
They
sufficient.
still have to meet the
Yep.
required statutes, absolutely.
That's the key.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And
that's
those
the
new
key.
statutes
You guys
get
just
more
need to be
stringent.
sure that you budget enough money so everybody's safe down there.
So when did the new jail standards go into effect? Is that,
Was that 251?
As far as, is this statute related to medical health coverage? I can't
I
recall
don't
when
know.
that come into play, but I don't think the jail standards are totally out yet. I think those are still in process.
okay. Okay. All right. Understand. Well, I don't, I mean, if the sheriff's not here, it's kind of useless, pointless to have any kind of a discussion without him showing up, so. I mean, if it's okay with you gentlemen, I think there's really not a whole lot to discuss.
No.
Okay. And I do not see Ray O'Neill in here. So I believe that we have come to the end of our agenda. And we are done with this workshop. Thank you all for attending. We are adjourned.